Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. We'll give it a minute or so people can join and we will get started. Thanks for joining us. All right, so we're going to kick this off. We have a lot of content to cover. So again, welcome everyone to our webinar, Eliminate Oracle Headaches and Embrace Innovation with Postgres. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. This presentation is being recorded, so later today or early tomorrow, you're going to get a follow-up email with the recording and the slides. And secondly, all the lines are muted, so we encourage you to ask questions using the Q&A chat. Today, I'm being joined by Scott Horn, Chief Marketing Officer at EDB, and Craig Guarente, CEO and founder of Palisade Compliance. Guys, I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Great, thanks, Cecilia. First of all, really excited to welcome Craig here. He brings a wealth of knowledge. I've been in EDB for more than a year. I have a long history with databases. I used to be a database developer, and hopefully, as folks are aware, EDB is the leading provider of Postgres solutions and technology out there. So very excited to partner up with Craig on today's webinars. Craig, over to you.
Yeah, Scott, first, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate that. It's always great to share the stage with EDB. My name is Craig Guarente. I'm the CEO and founder for Palisade Compliance, and our firm helps companies with Oracle licensing and contracting challenges. We've been in business for about 11 years. And then before that, I spent 16 years at Oracle running their contracts and business practices and compliance groups. So many of the challenges you face today dealing with Oracle probably started somewhere when I was there. So I apologize for that, but now we're on the other side and helping customers solve those problems. So thanks, Scott, for having me.
You're very welcome to have you here. It's great.
Awesome. So a couple webinar takeaways. We're going to be covering today the conversation with Scott and Craig, why companies are looking for alternatives to Oracle, what are the best practices to avoid vendor lock-in, and how to choose the best database option for your organization. And with that, I'll hand it off to Scott to kick us off.
Great. Thanks, Cecilia. So we're going to just kind of have an informal Q&A here. We're not going to present a bunch of slides to folks. And as Cecilia said, we're happy to take questions towards the end. So, Craig, you deal with this every day. You've got customers who are on Oracle for a variety of reasons. They want to come off. We see the same because I think, as people know, we have a very significant set of Oracle compatibility and migration capabilities at EDB. So when customers come to you typically, do they have an idea of what they want to do, what apps they're targeting, where they want to start, or do you help them guide, do you help them through that process?
Usually they've made the decision when they've come to us in terms of, should we move off of Oracle? Should we move away from Oracle? They don't come to us asking that question. Hey, is it a good idea? Like, something has happened, whether it's a cost issue or an audit or compliance, or the product just doesn't meet their needs going forward. They've made that decision. What they'll ask us to do is help them execute on that decision. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we say is, listen, if you're going to move away from Oracle, if you're going to stop giving them more money, let's make sure you're in compliance. Let's make sure that you're not using things you're not licensed for. And once you stop giving Oracle money, they don't really like that, right? So they'll do crazy things like audit you and sort of knock on your door and send 15 reps into your account. So we try to put them in a position of strength so that they can execute the plan they already have, which is to move off of Oracle. And usually from a technical perspective, they're looking at their different implementations, because some things they're running Oracle ERP, and that's going to be a challenge. You can't move that database off of if you're running ERP, but they'll look at the non-Oracle applications and say, what can we move off now? And they'll work with a firm like EDB on, red, yellow, green, what can come off and what can't. But really they'll come to us like, how can we do this contractually? I don't want to hit a landmine down the road, get, 6 steps in the process and then have to go back.
Okay. So it sounds like, if I play that back a little bit, it sounds like there's some good prep work that's important to do before you even, if you're a company that wants to move off Oracle, there's some pre-work to do before you even contact Oracle. Number one, I think is what you're saying. The other point I take away from that is thinking through the business challenges as well as the technical migration challenges are important to do in parallel. You can't just do one or the other. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and just, I don't know of the right time. If you're moving away from Oracle, I don't know if there's a right time to call up Oracle and say, hey, we're moving off of your product, right? You probably, that's something you want to let them know towards the end of that process, when you got one foot out the door already, in general. Yes, there's always this dual path approach, right? It doesn't really matter where you start as long as you hit both paths. Like some companies will take the technical path first, right? They'll look at their databases, they'll look at alternatives to Oracle. Hey, they'll call up EDB and they'll go down that migration path. But at some point, you're going to go down that path and you're going to say, oh, gee, we've got this Oracle contract. Or, if you're moving completely away from Oracle and you're going to turn off every single Oracle database, you may not have to go down the, let's make sure we're in compliance with Oracle now. But in most cases where we see, it's a progression of moving off, right? They're not turning off every Oracle product at once. They're slowly, they've got 10 different products and they're slowly going to turn this one off. Then they're going to use less of that one. Then they're going to turn that one off. And when you're in that stage, that's where you want to make sure you've got the contractual and the licensing and the business side taken care of. But I think most companies think of that as an afterthought and they start on the technical side. So start with you guys first. And, you're in there talking to them about the technology and that's what gets them excited, right? Because, all right, the Oracle database is up and running and maybe there's no sort of drama with the technology, but there's all this other drama out there. And then you guys show them a different path technically and like, oh, now we can get rid of some of that other drama, that licensing drama or that pricing drama that we have with Oracle. Seeing a big push these days on, I just need to reduce costs, right? And there's no way to reduce your Oracle costs with Oracle. And if you're going to use more Oracle, you're not going to reduce your Oracle costs.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I mean, probably a lot of people on this call either, they're on something like Postgres already as well as Oracle, or they're looking at moving. And the cost savings we've seen with our customers, pretty significant, north of 50%, just in terms of licensing and support fees alone. Yes. I'm curious, you mentioned cost is a big driver, and obviously that is one. Are there other reasons customers come to Palisade and say, we got to get out of this contract? I know why they come to us.
Right.
But what, and I can speak to that, but like when they engage you, is cost the primary driver or are there other reasons?
There's usually, we break our business into the firefighter where the house is on fire and the fire marshal, the one who's going to check the fire extinguishers and make sure everything is okay. So there is no fire. Unfortunately, most companies wait too long, right? They wait until there's the Oracle knock on the door, there's the audit. Another big driver is they've got these enterprise agreements called unlimited license agreements. So those things expire every 3 or 4 years. They get to the end of that and they have to make a decision. Am I going to renew that agreement and do another enterprise deal and give Oracle even more money? Or is there an alternative? So there's usually a compelling event, which brings customers our way. There are customers who are just like, hey, I want to proactively do this before Oracle, knocks on my door. Those are, unfortunately, we love those. We love all of our clients. We love those the most because we can help them the most, right? There's more opportunity to get in there and help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, from a high level perspective on the technical side, first of all, customers have multiple options. You can migrate over entirely to something like Postgres, EDB Postgres. And we have, we'll mention at the end too, we have a migration portal people can try out to use that. If you want to put your schema, your DDL up there, your data, and it's free, you get a report. The other thing that's also available is compatibility technology, where you can keep your PL SQL app in place and run it against the Postgres backend. And it gets you out a lot of the costs of Oracle. So, as Craig and I are pointing out, there's multiple options and flavors, and you've got resources. If you're considering making that transition or you're in the transition, there are resources to help you. I'll also say on the cost front, Craig and I were talking about this earlier, Oracle they really help out. I mean, last year, 8% support increase, things like that caused a lot of phone calls for Craig's company and ours. So thank you, Oracle.
Yeah, it's funny, people ask me, Craig, what's the biggest risk to Palisade's business? Like what keeps you up at night? And then I'll say, well, Oracle is nice to their customers, right? And that's the exact reaction I get. They laugh and they're like, I think you're fine. Don't worry about it. But, that 8% cost increase is significant, right? If you think about Oracle support, and they don't, when they announce earnings, they used to tell you this is how much is for support. And I think the last time they did it, it was $19 billion. And obviously that number has gone down over time. But, if still that rate, it was like $19-20 billion in support, an 8% increase, right? That's, $1.6 billion right off the top. That's just profit for Oracle, right? So, when we started and we met you guys many years ago, like we met Postgres, EDB Postgres 10 years ago. It wasn't long after we started. And I had just come out of Oracle, and I was very much like all about Oracle. The initial business for Palisade was helping customers buy more Oracle. It wasn't sort of sitting on the other side. And customers kept coming to us to alternatives. And some of our biggest customers like, hey, we're doing this other thing with Postgres and with EDB. So that's how we met you guys. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting over the years because it's our customers who drove us to sort of meet with you and sort of investigate and learn about your business. But 10 years ago, when I would talk to folks from EDB, it was all about we're the Oracle replacement. And now it's so much different, right? There's so much other technologies and services that you guys have. And I think when I hear you guys talk to customers, that's almost one of the last things you talk about is like, hey, we're the Oracle replacement. So it's interesting to hear your business progressing over the last few years. Yeah,
well, thanks for that. I mean, it's true. I mean, Postgres, for those, some folks on the call know this in the webinar, I mean, Postgres has itself an annual cadence of releases. So over the last 6-7 years, there's been 6-7 releases. Every release keeps adding capabilities. EDB happens to be the largest company contributor to Postgres. But the thing that's really changed is Postgres really has become a mainstream database platform. You can pretty much use it for almost any workload. There's very few workloads where you could say, oh, I've got to use like an Oracle Golden Gate or RAC. And continually that improvement rate has gotten there. The other thing we've seen is, enterprises around the world are using Postgres for the most mission critical demanding applications. OLTP, financial transactions, crypto, you name it. You see it. So I think that's been a big reason for the change you're mentioning, Craig, which is Postgres is more universally used in a lot of different ways. It's almost easier to ask, what can't you do with Postgres than what can you do? So,
yeah, sorry to interrupt. The thing I'd add to that, again, listen, I'm not a technologist, I'm not a DBA, but we hear from our clients, and the biggest thing that blocks a customer from adopting a non-Oracle database like Postgres, is simply they're running Oracle ERP, right? If there's an application that was built for the Oracle database specifically, whether that's Oracle ERP or some other third-party application that has to run on Oracle, that is the only stopper, right? We don't hear any customer say, well, this needs higher security, so it has to run on Oracle, or this needs to be faster, so it has to run on Oracle, or this needs to be larger and it has to run on Oracle. We just never hear that. Yep. The only blocker is, hey, we're running Oracle ERP, so we have to keep a portion of our Oracle databases running. That is literally the one technical blocker we hear from people.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if you're a company, for folks on the webinar, if you're running in-house business applications on Oracle, you can move them. ERP is harder because so much of the systems are tied up, and Oracle clearly is not going to move their own ERP off of their own database. So that's a tough one. Well, Greg, when curious, when companies come to you and they want to move, like, what are your best practices you recommend in terms of start with this kind of application or this number of applications, and then, like, what kind of expectations do you set about how long it will take to get that first migration in place?
So again, coming from our perspective, we're looking at their current Oracle installs, their license compliance position, and we want to make sure that when they start that process, that they are what we call a position of strength, right? We don't want them out of compliance. So we'll go and do a full audit. And when we do a full audit, we know every database that they're running. We know the versions, we know the features and functions, we know the extra cost options, we know what virtualization, what hardware, what applications are running. Like, there's a whole host of information that we gather from doing an audit. And the customer can really use that then, right? They can look at that and say, well, I've got this feature running on this database, so that might not be something I want to move. Or this database is running Oracle ERP, so I'm not going to look at those. So it really helps the customer crystallize what they should be looking at, right? And that's, we've had customers who come to us and we do this full audit, and we know, hey, they're talking to you guys. And I said, listen, don't give EDB the compliance position. Don't show them, that's your confidential information, but show them your installs, show them what you're running, show them the technical information there. And then those guys are the experts. They're going to help you sort of figure out from their perspective what they can do quickly and what they can't, and like what you should. And I've seen EDB go out to customers and say, no, don't move this one, right? This has got to stay for this reason because you're running Oracle ERP, right? So forget that. Look over here. And then once they do that, then we can go back to the license agreements, right? We can say, okay, now you have a plan. You've got 1,000 Oracle databases. You're going to bring that down to 500. And over the next year or two, you're going to be running Postgres over here. Now, how do we reduce your Oracle costs, right? How can we go? Because that's ultimately, if we can reduce them, great. If at the very minimum, we could stop them from going up, that's also a win. It's not the win that customers really want, but if I look at how Oracle costs go up quickly, the first step is stop the bleeding, stop the red bleeding, stop digging, stop giving Oracle more money, right? So that's what and every customer has, I'm moving off of Oracle. It's one of the first things they say, I'm moving away from Oracle. And we say, okay, how can we help you? We get very few that say, I really want to give Oracle more money. But again, that's our view of the world, right? I'm sure there are companies out there who want to do that. We just don't see them. So stop the bleeding, stop giving Oracle more money, be in a position of strength, understand your technical implementations, what databases you've deployed, and then make informed decisions, right? With technical experts like yourself on what should move next.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, to your point, stop the bleeding. I mean, I'd say for people on the call, the thing we advise our customers to do is, stop adding applications and workloads on Oracle. I mean, you may not move anything, but the more you add, the more you have to migrate later. And then really it's about just pick an application. Perhaps it's tier 1, maybe not, maybe you do a tier 2, tier 3, pick something that's not mission critical initially. It gives you confidence, and then we can work with you to help get it over. As I mentioned, we've got the migration portal. which is on our website. We also have a bunch of materials. And for those customers that need it, we do have professional services that actually provide hands-on support for migrating Oracle applications and workloads. And quite frankly, Craig knows this because he's referenced it. EDB has done more migrations to Postgres from Oracle than any other company out there by a wide margin. Craig, one other thing you touched on earlier, I want to come back to, because for those of our listeners who are in the Oracle world, they may think that, God, they're all the same. Everybody's like Oracle. They all treat their customers like that. I mean, you worked at Oracle, you've worked with, Oracle alternatives. What are your thoughts on that?
They're not all the same. I will tell you, if technology vendors have a right to protect their IP, and nobody begrudges any firm from doing that. We did a webinar last year with your CEO, with Ed Boyazian. And I remember I said, Ed, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. How often do you audit your customers? How much money do you generate from audits? How do you, if a customer doesn't buy your stuff, how do you go back to them and force them to buy it? He laughed and he thought it was a joke. I'm like, no, these are real questions because this is what we face every day. And he's like, we don't do that. We don't do any of that. So
Yep.
like, okay.
That's
I'm
right.
like, we could, I was like, Ed, Palisade, we can build an audit branch for you, generate a lot of money. He's like, no, thanks. We're fine. So, there are other firms out there who are known to be aggressive. Adobe was out there for a while. VMware is doing audits, IBM, Microsoft, SAP, even IBM. Cloud companies, people think, hey, we're not on-prem, we're in the cloud, we're safe. Not really. We see cloud companies, they just let you start whatever you want and then they send a bill. So there is a reason why Oracle does what they do. And the reason is it is so effective, right? Again, without putting a value judgment on it, if I was running Oracle, I wouldn't change anything about how they do audits, right? It generates so much money, drives the business, whether customers like it or not, right? So, until there's an alternative that impacts their bottom line, they're not going to change, right? I wouldn't change.
Well, I was going to ask you a follow-up, but you make an interesting point, which what we're seeing at least, and if you look at, for example, any of the analysts, IDC, Gartner, Forrester, and they're looking at database market share, Oracle's has been dropping significantly since 17. But to Craig's earlier point, what they've been doing is moving up the application stack. So Oracle's doing quite well. What they're doing now is, with not just the ERP, but some of their acquisitions, is they're bolting in their database. So when you use those apps, you have to use their databases. So I think they seem to realize that, it's tougher and tougher to compete with that legacy proprietary database in a open source, more cloud-oriented world. So they're moving up. Craig, one question I was going to ask you is, Oracle clearly is making a push recently to get companies from their on-prem to cloud, get into the Oracle cloud. I mean, are you seeing any difference in their behaviors, cost structures, or anything that would cause customers to go, yeah, I'm going to go into the Oracle cloud, let me in?
Yeah, it's been an interesting, obviously they don't share directly with me anymore. It's not like I'm an employee and I work there and I know what the plans are, but we can see their behavior through the eyes of our clients. And it's been interesting the last few years to see the evolution of Oracle business practices and sales tactics and how they're moving into that space. Early on in this, at first Oracle said, cloud's a joke. We don't know what cloud is. It's just someone else's server, right? And they were a little late to the game. I don't think anybody would deny that. But one of the things they were very clear on is whatever you spend with Oracle on premise, you spend $1 million a year, they want you to give up all those licenses and move to the cloud and spend 3 to 4 million. Like it was they really, to their investors and to the market, they did not want the cloud to be seen as a disruptor to their business. Again, $20 billion a year in annual technical support at 95% margin, right? That is a hugely profitable business, right? And that's what it was a few years ago. It's a little, I'm sure the margins are higher today, but the dollars are smaller. So Oracle's looking at increasing. And then now their position is, well, you're going to save on other stuff. But what we've seen recently is, and there was an article out, I think it was like Info Week. I posted it on LinkedIn this week, talking about the repatriation of databases or technology, like turning from the cloud and moving it back on-prem. And I think big technology firms like Oracle are seeing that. So what they're doing now is they're promoting what Oracle calls cloud at customer. And they're saying, we're going to take this Exadata machine and we're going to put it in your data center and we'll put some software on top of it. And that's now called cloud because we're going to manage it remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And, we see, defense, banking, things like that. Those kinds of customers are interested in that just because their data can't leave. So we're never moving to the cloud, but we want to do something new and innovative, right? So they're looking at this. So we definitely see Oracle pushing into that. I think everything Oracle does, whether it's their applications or their cloud strategy, it all revolves around their database, everything, right? So if it didn't, even when they tried, database as a service, SaaS as a service, it sort of all relies on your data being in their database. And it's a lock-in strategy for them. So, even the good thing about, customers, even if they've moved to cloud, you can get your stuff out of cloud, right? It's not a perpetual license where you've given all this money. So there's some more lock-in because you're in cloud, but there's a little more risk, I think, to traditional on-prem vendors where you can actually get your stuff out as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'll make a quick comment and then we can kind of take questions. I saw some in the chat already. To Craig's point, one of the things to look at, so at EDB, our focus is you get to run Postgres in your data anywhere you want. So we have, if you want to do a private cloud, on-prem, we actually have a managed service, Big Animal. You can do a free trial of the Big Animal managed service from our website. And Big Animal runs on both AWS and Azure today, Google Cloud Platform coming soon. The reason I mention that is we think it should be up to the enterprise where they run their data. Like you decide where, and we want to provide you the same Postgres. So it runs across all those places. So with that, Craig, this has been great. Celia, let me turn it back over to you and we'll take questions from folks. And I think there's one already out there.
Perfect. Yeah. Before we kick this off, we wanted to let everyone know that we have done a joint white paper with Palisade Compliance that dives deeper in all of these topics. So we are going to be inviting you to check it out when we followed up with an email, but you can also find it under our white papers on our website. Let's kick off the questions. As you were saying, we got a few already. So here's the first one. Not having any employees in the company who work with PostgreSQL before, is it feasible to jump from Oracle to PostgreSQL and learn day by day? Or do you think they need a transition period to Postgres before the migration process?
Craig, do you want to take that or would you like me to take that first one?
That's all you.
Okay. So we definitely recommend getting some PostgreSQL training. I will mention we have a bunch of free training courses on our site. The Postgres community is amazing. We're a big part of that community. So I'd say having some employees who know PostgreSQL. There's also a bunch of great content on our site and on our YouTube channel around the differences between, things to consider as you're moving a PL SQL app base to PostgreSQL. So definitely recommended, feel free to reach out to me, to EDB. We have some tools that can help, and we make all of our documentation available publicly. So it's up there and available and really easy to get at.
Right. Thank you, Scott. Next question is, from your experience, do the migration process need a space list or could database developers handle the job? I guess maybe meant a special.
Greg, do you want that one?
No, these are all you. These are good.
So I'm not sure what is meant by a space list. Maybe you mean like kind of a checklist. What I'd say is it's hard to answer without understanding the capabilities of your database developers. We do have customers who have been able to migrate to Oracle or leverage our Oracle compatibility technology without really much support or help from us. I mean, we do include support as part of our agreements. So you do have that. And we have, I want to say we have 300 plus Postgres engineers in the company. So it really depends on how experienced your developers are in Postgres, migrating things over. What I'd say is if you're interested, give us a call and we'd be happy to talk it through and help figure it out.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. And here's another one that might be more for Craig. What are some common mistakes that organizations make when signing a ULA? And you mentioned some of that at the beginning, Craig. So,
yeah, just for the audience's sake, this is Oracle's version of an enterprise agreement, the last 3 or 4 years. And Oracle loves these. They've been around for 15, 20 years maybe now. And I think the biggest mistake is inertia, is not understanding if you really need it. I think most ULAs are signed because people don't have the information they need to make a more informed decision. I think every ULA, if you want to save money with Oracle, if you're in a ULA, the best is to get out of it, right? As long as you keep going into the next ULA, you're going to pay more and more and more, not only more to Oracle, but you're going to limit your flexibility and freedom to adopt different solutions. Because why am I going to buy something else? I already paid for Oracle. We have lots of customers who use both Postgres and have a ULA. But if you want to reduce your Oracle costs, you've got to get out of the ULA. So just signing it because Oracle says you have to sign it, I think is the biggest mistake.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add there, Craig, I mean, talking to a lot of customers, we do see, sorry about the noise, we do see customers have multiple database platforms and they're in the midst of migrating. So as we indicated earlier, you don't need to immediately shift your entire database state to Postgres, but whether it's Postgres or some other open source alternative, you can start, like put new apps on there, migrate some legacy applications, existing apps, because the point is everything you move or do outside Oracle, you're going to save a lot of money. I mean, I mentioned this earlier, our customers see easily north of 50% plus savings. And it can be actually much more depending on the scenario, like how much professional services they do or don't want, how much training they do or don't want, how many cores they want to put it on. But the savings are pretty significant.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And very much related to what you're just saying, we'll take this last one from Sean Paul. I realize cost might not be comparable between EDB and Oracle because of all the licensable options, but generally, what sort of cost savings could a company expect?
Yeah,
bearing in mind that, yeah.
Sorry, I think I was actually answering that one when I think Craig was too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the short answer is the cost savings can be very significant, much more than 40%. And keep in mind, as Craig and I mentioned earlier, when they're coming out with an 8% support increase, that's after, hey, you got your 40% discount, and then they come back next year and go, guess what? So, good things to keep in mind.
Yep, exactly. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for today. As we are saying, we are very happy to take additional questions. If you would want to reach out to Palisade, here's their website. If you are considering migrating, you can contact us. There's a link to the migration portal that Scott was mentioning earlier under solutions on our website. We'll send you the link on the followed up email. But feel free, if your question was not answered or you have further questions, reach out to us. You can come to enterprise.tv/contact there and let us know. We really appreciate the time. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate your participation in today's webinar, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.